Christmas Eve, 1995. Outside, the world is celebrating. In Las Vegas, the city he built, the neon lights are burning holes in the night sky. Gamblers are screaming, champagne is popping, and the ghost of the Rat Pack is still selling souvenirs. But here, in a darkened bedroom in Beverly Hills, there is no applause, there is no orchestra. There is only the ragged, shallow breathing of a 7-8-year-old man, drowning in his own lungs. Dean Martin, the king of cool, the man who taught America how to smile with a drink in its hand, is dying alone. The irony is suffocating. The man who sang "Everybody Loves Somebody" is slipping away in absolute isolation. A faint recording of his own voice plays in the corner, a ghostly echo of a man who ceased to exist long ago. Because here is the twist that history books won't tell you. Dean Martin didn't die on Christmas Day, 1995. His body died then. But his soul was extinguished 8 years earlier on a frozen mountain peak, buried under snow and twisted metal. What lay in this bed for those final years was not a man. It was a hollow shell, a tuxedo stuffed with ash, waiting for his body to finally catch up with his broken heart. Tonight, we turn off the neon lights. We strip away the tuxedo, the jokes, and the whiskey. We are descending into the silence of Dino Crocetti to witness the slow, agonizing decay of a man who wore a smile like a death mask. To understand the silence, we must go back to the noise. The grinding metallic roar of Steubenville, Ohio, 1917. This wasn't a town. It was a cage built of coal dust and prejudice. Dino Paul Crocetti was born here, the son of an Italian barber, into a world that hated him before he even spoke. And he couldn't speak. At age 5, Dino didn't know a word of English. On his first day of school, the American dream greeted him with a shove into the mud. They called him a dirty immigrant. They mocked his broken tongue. They beat him because he smelled like his father's cheap hair tonic. Most children would cry. Some would fight. Dino did neither. He learned a terrifying psychological lesson that day. Invisibility is survival. He lowered his head. He pressed his lips together. He realized that if you offer the world nothing, the world has nothing to attack. That famous, heavy-lidded nonchalance the world would later fall in love with? That wasn't cool. That was trauma. That was a child dissociating from pain. By age 10, he was laboring in steel mills, his hands blistering against molten metal. By his teens, he was running bootleg liquor for the mob, navigating the gray zones of morality where life was cheap. Then came the boxing ring, fighting under the name Kid Crochet. He broke his nose. He split his lips. He took beatings that would fell an ox. But the ring taught him the philosophy that would define his entire life. Get hit, stand up, and never, ever let them see you bleed. The smile he wore? It wasn't joy. It was a getaway car. It was a weapon to disarm you before you could punch him again. Fate has a cruel sense of humor. It paired the man who wanted silence with a man who was pure, unadulterated noise. Dean meets Jerry Lewis, the handsome crooner and the manic clown. Their act was born in desperation, fueled by chaos. They destroyed stages, they improvised madness, and America became addicted. They were the biggest act in the world, but behind the curtain, a psychological cancer was growing. As they ascended, Dean began to vanish. The media hailed Jerry as the genius, the visionary. Dean, he was just the prop, the straight man, the handsome scenery. In 1954, Look magazine cropped Dean out of a cover photo, leaving only Jerry. It was a public castration. Dean went back to his hotel room, poured a drink, and stared at the wall. He was being erased from his own life. The resentment turned cold. It wasn't a hot anger. It was a glacial indifference. On the set of their final film, Hollywood or Bust, Dean finally looked at Jerry, the man he had built an empire with, and delivered a line so cold it shattered the brotherhood forever. To me, you are nothing but a dollar sign. The twist. The world thought the breakup in 1956 would kill Dean's career. They thought he was the parasite. They were wrong. Dean was the host, and when he cut Jerry loose, he didn't drown. He surfaced. But he surfaced harder, colder, and more cynical than ever before. He reinvented himself. He became the king of cool. He conquered Hollywood with Rio Bravo. He conquered the charts, knocking the Beatles off Hashone with Everybody Loves Somebody. Then came the Rat Pack, the summit of masculinity. Frank, Sammy, Dean. To the public, it was a party that never ended. But look closer. Frank Sinatra was the fire explosive, connected to the mob, dangerous. Dean was the smoke drifting, untouchable, present but absent. He drank apple juice on stage while pretending it was whiskey. Why? Because he needed total control. He needed to be the only sober man in a room full of drunks. It was the ultimate deception. The Fracture Point, June 1966. The Polo Lounge. It was supposed to be a birthday party, but the violence that always lurked beneath Frank Sinatra's tuxedo erupted. Frank got into an argument and threw a telephone at a businessman's head, fracturing his skull. Blood on the table, police sirens wailing. Dean sat there, watching the chaos. He didn't move. In that moment, he realized that this glamorous life was just Steubenville in a better suit. It was still thugs, it was still violence. He quietly stood up and walked away. From that night on, a wall went up. Dean stopped partying. He stopped socializing. He would finish a show, skip the after-party, and go home to watch westerns and eat bread and cheese alone. The king of cool was actually a hermit, hiding in plain sight. He tried to find peace in women, but you cannot hold on to someone when your hands are always in your pockets. He left his first wife, Betty, the woman who starved with him, when fame came calling. A ruthless trade. He married the beautiful Jeannie Beager, the love of his life. They were Hollywood royalty for 24 years, but silence is a slow poison. Jean eventually confessed. He never argues, but he never opens up. I am living with a statue. He divorced her, not out of anger, but out of a paralyzing inability to connect. Then, a desperate grasp at youth. Catherine Hahn, a receptionist, 30 years his junior. It lasted 3 years. By 1976, Dean Martin stopped trying. He accepted his fate. He was destined to be alone. He retreated to the golf course, the only place where silence was natural, where the only objective was to hit a ball into the void. He thought he had paid his dues. He thought he could live out his days in this quiet numbness, but fate was sharpening its blade for one final, fatal strike. Dean had one light left in his dark world. His son, Dean Paul Martin, Dino Jr. The boy was everything Dean wasn't. Open, vibrant, a captain in the Air National Guard. When Dean saw his son fly, he felt redeemed. The 21st of March, 1987. The day the music died, Dean Paul's F-4 Phantom jet vanished from radar over the San Gorgonio Mountains during a snowstorm. For 3 days, the King of Cool sat in his living room. He didn't speak. He didn't sleep. He sat with a cigarette burning down to his fingers, staring at a telephone that refused to ring. Thousands of searchers combed the mountain. The world prayed. Dean just waited. Then, the news came. Wreckage found. No survivors. Dean didn't scream. He didn't break furniture. He simply turned off. He walked into his bedroom and closed the door. Frank Sinatra later said, Dean died on that mountain with his son. The man who walked out of that room was a zombie. The ghost had finally taken over the machine. The smile was gone forever. The final 8 years were a slow-motion suicide. He cut off Sinatra. He quit the reunion tour in 1988, sneaking out of the hotel in the dead of night, leaving his oldest friends without a goodbye. He couldn't bear the fake laughter anymore. He sat in restaurants, staring at his pasta, alone. In 1993, the doctors told him, terminal lung cancer. Dean nodded. He didn't ask for a cure. He didn't ask for more time. He looked at his children and said, I just want peace. He refused surgery. He welcomed the end. Christmas Day, 1995. As the monitor flatlined, Las Vegas dimmed its lights. A minute of darkness for the man who lit up the town. But when the lights came back on, the world felt a little colder, a little emptier. Conclusion. Dean Martin spent 78 years perfecting a mask. He convinced us that life was a joke, that nothing mattered, that the glass was always full. But in the end, the joke was on him. He proved the darkest theorem of stardom. You can be loved by millions. You can possess all the charm in the world, but you cannot outrun your own shadow. He was a man who conquered poverty, the mob, and Hollywood. But he was defeated by the one thing he courted his entire life: silence. And if you listen closely to his music now, beneath the velvet voice and the easy swing, you can hear it. Not the joy of a star, but the quiet weeping of a boy from Steubenville who just wanted to hide.